Welcome. This is our first vlog. We're probably gonna do 4 of them, and we're here to talk about espionage, spying, illegal stuff, intelligence, the CIA, and basically cool stuff that people don't talk about anymore, or we don't get to learn about. And mostly we don't get to learn about them because it's against the law, and basically if you spy on another nation, you're gonna get killed. And so, yeah, pretty much. Uh, they do some cool stuff. These spies that they risk their life for America. So, you know, you get caught. Like I said, they're pretty high risk, but it was probably fun. It's probably pretty exhilarating. I mean, I've seen all the James Bond movies. Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of the part that people left out of history. So let's get into it.
So the first part is, espionage started with, I guess it was a starting point, you could say, with Walsingham. So he was a guy, basically a British detective kind of guy. He was driving all the Catholic priests out, torturing, killing them, basically kill priests and then get money. And and what was happening is that he had his little agency around where people did everything. So he had field agents, he had decipherers, he had and then he had like
code breakers,
yeah, those kind of people.
Those kind of things.
And he had actually one of the best code breakers,
Carlos
Felipe.
Yeah, he has some
he
pretty
was a hot shot.
Yeah.
And then, so as he was doing this, he found out about the Throckmorton plot. So the Throckmorton plot was a plot to assassinate Queen Elizabeth. Why? Because Spain and France wanted to put this Mary, Queen of Scots, to become the Queen of England, because so then they could be buddies, Catholic buddies. But they eventually found the Throckmorton plot.
Yeah. So basically, what happened was in Walsingham's crazy Catholic priest killing adventures, he intercepted another letter totally unrelated to killing priests, and so the letter was sent. It was from a Spanish ambassador, and it was sent to an English, I guess, a Spanish spy in England, or a Spanish, I guess, loyalist in England. He wasn't exactly a spy. He was just Catholic, and he wanted Spain to be glorious again, and so basically their plan was to assassinate Queen Elizabeth I and put in Mary, Queen of Scots, because she was also Catholic. And they intercepted this letter, found out who this guy was, and they waited 6 months, watched his movements, found out more about the plan, and basically just waited for a good time to strike. And they got him. So they arrested him in the middle. He was probably like eating cereal or something. Honestly, he's probably just in his house chilling. And they probably came up to him and were like, "Yeah, bro, you're getting arrested. You're trying to kill the queen." And so he got arrested and then executed, because they don't like people who try to kill their queen. And yeah, so this was kind of the start of modern espionage, or at least espionage. I guess it would also be called counterintelligence, because they weren't really gathering any intelligence about any other country. So it would be more counterintelligence. But it was still use of specialization of different skills and use of an organization to find out things that otherwise would not be public knowledge. And so I guess this is the big deal, because although it might not have been kind of reported on and it might not have been continued, it was an idea by a guy who did something good. And you don't really hear about, Walsingham being like a savior or anything, because he didn't really do anything. He prevented a plot. And so, like, you prevent something from happening, and because it didn't happen, it's not really historically relevant.
But if it did happen, it would have changed the course of history.
It would have changed the course of history a lot. And we wouldn't learn about him. I don't know what they learned about in England. I don't know why they would learn about him. Like I said, most of the time he was killing priests, and we like priests now, kind of.
So our next guy is Which period? It was
Our second period goes into kind of the French and Indian War and the American Revolution. And so during this time, there was this is really when spies started to pick up. This is when it got kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know, the Americans didn't have much, but they did have superior spies, I guess. The British had more spies, but I guess they weren't as good as the American spies. Or maybe they were just kind of home field advantage, you know, that sort of thing. But yeah, we're going to talk about a couple spies during this era that were pretty prevalent.
So, in the Yorktown campaign, Marquis de Lafayette, who was from the French side, he was helping the Continental Army out. He found an unlikely, like a secret agent in this black slave known as James Armstead. Armistead? Yeah.
Armstead.
And this guy got his master's permission to assist in the war. So this guy, he was Virginia-born bondsman, and he started his service. He transported, dispatched intelligence reports across enemy lines, but then he was so good, so he went to full-on espionage, full-on spying. It was pretty badass, and he infiltrated Cornwall's army camp by posing as a runaway slave, and the British, they bought it so much, his role was so convincing that they made him a spy. They said they wanted him to be a spy for their country, and he agreed, obviously. And then what he did was his loyalty was to the Americans, but he gave British wrong information and gave Lafayette the Continental Army all the British location, the information, and the most important things about him. And the great thing is he risked his life for the country, but he was sent back to his master after the war, and he was a slave for many more years. And finally, in 1787,
yeah.
He was, because of Lafayette, he wrote a letter to the Virginia legislature on his behalf, and Armistead, in the end, because he was so thankful to Lafayette, he changed his name to James Armstead Lafayette.
Yeah, it's pretty ironic. He fought for the country's freedom, and then he goes back, and they're like, "Oh, now you need to go back and be a slave again." And so that was definitely ironic, definitely super messed up. But luckily, he got what
he got. He was free.
They gave him what he deserved. It still wasn't enough, obviously, for what he did. He really did make a difference in the war, and they repaid him by making him a slave for 6 years, and then I guess freeing him, but they didn't free him right away.
What if they didn't find out those secret locations? What would happen? You never know. That's the amazing thing about intelligence.
Yeah. The next guy we're going to talk about, also a badass. We're not really... Are we affiliated? I'm not really sure if we're affiliated with Broad Run or Mr. Curtis, but I guess we're allowed to swear. We're going to swear anyways. So, basically all these spies that we're going to talk about during the American Revolution, badasses. That's honestly...
One word to describe them is a badass.
We're looking at all these guys and we're like, dang, this might be the reason why the Americans won the war. How did the British #1 Army beat a bunch of people with kind of alright guns and no clothing? Don't really know, but might have been because of the intelligence. But this guy, usually referred to as America's first spy, apparently there's a statue of him at the front of the CIA, so the CIA headquarters, and he graduated from Yale, and he served in the Continental Army, and then they were like, hey, you should be a spy, so they were looking for spies, he volunteered, so he was sent to British forts, and he was said to be a schoolmaster, and he would go and kind of get blueprints of what the fort looked like, what was inside of it, what they had. And, although he was being a spy, he was not very good at it at all. He got caught pretty quickly. they found stuff in his shoes, so they were using some covert strategies, some espionage strategies.
Old day strategies.
So the British loyalists caught him in like 3 days. Didn't last very long, and they charged him as an enemy, a traitor, and they put him to execution. But the most